What first made you want to become an entrepreneur, a social entrepreneur? What's the difference between an entrepreneur and a social entrepreneur? And what's your most recommended book, James? Welcome to the JOD Pod, a micro podcast where we interview CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs, coaches, and authors. Today, we are very lucky to be joined by James Herbertson, the co-founder of Bayswater Education. James, great to have you today on the JOD Pod.
Thank you very much for inviting me, James.
So, James, I know you pretty well, but to the audience, those people who don't know you, who is James Herbertson?
Who is James Herbertson? I am a social entrepreneur. So I have a business that I co-founded, as you mentioned, Bayswater. We help students from all around the world that aspire to learn a language, learn new skills. And really what we're about, and indeed what I'm about, is helping people answer the question, what next? So for me, my inspiration and reason to get up in the morning is always about helping others in their journey to fulfill their career and make the most of whatever they want to do in their lives.
That's wonderful. James, your and my whys align so closely, which is probably why we like chatting until the small hours sometimes. Mm-hmm. You're an entrepreneur, though, social entrepreneur, like you've got fingers in many pies. What first made you want to become an entrepreneur, a social entrepreneur?
I think if I really date back, even when I was at school, I was always involved in different charity initiatives, whether that's with the Scouts, doing things like, sort of funny, it sounds very dated now, but shining people's shoes or washing cars. Or when I was at school, organising charity days, like a charity cricket match I can remember one year, and various different events. But the big turning point, I think, for me was when I was 18. I had the opportunity to travel to Zimbabwe, and I went to teach in a secondary school in a very poor area, a place called Chipatsi, which is next to Bindura, which should be a very rich area because I do a lot of mining there, but it doesn't necessarily filter down. And I saw the kindness that was shown to me in Zimbabwe when we went into the rural areas with people that had very little. And I was just so touched by that experience. I felt that I wanted to do something to give back, to thank people. And so I started a charity with some mates of mine, which is brilliant if you're playing Scrabble. It's called ZRSDP, which stands for Zimbabwe Rural Schools Development Programme. And I started out with my mates when we were, I'm going to date myself now, when we were in our early 20s. So probably those viewing probably think that's about 5 years ago, but that's about 22, 23 years ago now. And yeah, we've been building schools and communities in rural Zimbabwe in all of that time, raised over £500,000. And that for me has, from a relatively early age, been something I've enjoyed doing. And it started a little bit, in many ways, a bit like a hobby. And I had the opportunity a few years ago to make it more of my career. And having already had a number of businesses, Bayswater was a way to bring together my passions for education with also helping people from less privileged backgrounds. So I think I've had it in me from a young age. I was very lucky with my parents. My mum started her own business in the 90s. An employment agency, and my dad was very successful in business himself. And so I think growing up with them as parents gave me an insight that maybe some other people don't necessarily have. And I was very lucky, very, very fortunate in that sense. And so I've always wanted to have my own business and always want to do something to help others.
James, that's fantastic. What's the difference between an entrepreneur and a social entrepreneur?
Very good question. For me, it's someone that combines the solution part, I think, of entrepreneur. I think, entrepreneurs seek naturally to try and solve problems. And a social entrepreneur has it with a social mission as well that may not just be purely solved in the marketplace. So in our case, we know that the British Council, for example, did a study in Brazil that by virtue of being able to speak English to intermediate, upper intermediate level upwards, you'd be able to earn 4 to 5 times the amount of money in your salary, in your pay packet, by virtue of being able to speak English. And so clearly, if we can have an equitable response to the problem and to the challenge, that people in Brazil do receive English classes, lots of people do, and there's many Brazilians who speak very good English. But in the favela, they don't necessarily have good quality of English language classes. And so we are creating a circular model whereby every student that comes to study with us in our schools in the UK, part of the revenue goes towards paying for people from a less privileged background to be able to study English. We started them at a relatively young age, at age 12, carrying on through to 16. So the idea is when they leave secondary school, they will have opportunities that weren't open before in travel, in trade, in tourism, etc.
Wow. I bet there's some incredible stories of people that have come through those classes that, you know, have learned English and what they've gone on to do from where they started. It must be, you know, so motivating for you. And so, you know, I just think about that kind of altruistic feedback loop that you get, and that must motivate you every day to get out of bed, as you were saying earlier. I've got a question for you about entrepreneurship. Something that I talk to a lot of people about is when they're trying to start their own company and they get stuck on website, social media, this is what I'm going to do. And then they struggle to make the step towards getting your first customer. And I think even as a social entrepreneur, you still need customers. You still need people paying you money. It doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't matter if it's someone walking through the door and paying for something, or someone investing in you because of the good cause that you're working towards. But I'm just wondering if you can remember how you got your first customer as an entrepreneur and what that looked like.
Well, my first business was a language travel agency, and that's actually kind of an extension of how I got into the business. I'd gone to Spain to study Spanish. I'd never had that experience of learning language before. I studied French at school, but I was terrible and didn't want to do it. And as a family, we never went to France, so I didn't see the value in it. And by 18, 19, with actually some great encouragement by my father, I went over to Malaga and had the time of my life, and really made some great friendships, not just with people from all around the world, but also lots of Spanish people. I have a godson now as a result, Lorenzo James. Hopefully he's not too bullied in the playground with a name like that in Spain. But I just wanted to, for me, it was very natural that in starting a business, I wanted to be in a sector that I believed in. And so I think a lot of people with sales, to answer your question, it's a bit of a dirty word and they really see this as like a big milestone. For me, of course, it was fantastic. But in my mind, I was just helping someone on that journey. They already wanted it. It was like pushing on an open door. So they wanted to come to London. They wanted to find a language school. And I was just acting effectively as a conduit to that, to help them achieve what they wanted to do. So it was definitely a great moment to see somebody fulfill what for them was a dream. And for me, there was just a great warm, fuzzy feeling of knowing that what I had had a few years before in reverse, me going to Spain this time, Spanish person going to England, just felt so natural, so natural. Of course, there was a fist pump as well, I'm sure, when I got that first sale. And you, in those days, slightly more coming off the phone or have an email that somebody transacting, you got that bank transfer into your account. So quite a different world now. Yeah, it's deeply satisfying, deeply, deeply satisfying. but it didn't feel like a struggle, should I say.
That's wonderful. I think, that thing about pushing on an open door, solving someone's problem, that there is an obvious problem and that you can provide a solution to. That's something that you've always spoken about in all of our conversations. And when people think about sales, as you say, it becomes a kind of blocker. But if you just think about solving problems and helping people achieve what they're trying to achieve, it becomes a lot easier as a process. Thanks for sharing that, James. So what's the big thing now? What's the big pressure? The thing that you're trying to do with Bayswater to make an impact?
Well, I think it's most exciting for us. Well, I think there's two things that are very exciting at the moment. We've actually grown extremely quickly in a very short period of time. Only less than 18 months ago, we were a single college with a couple of summer camps, and we've expanded rapidly throughout the last year by acquiring some big brands of the industry. Eurocenters was at one point the biggest language school chain around the world, and Language Study Centres was one of the big summer camp operators, and we managed to acquire both of them last year. And so we feel custodians of that. And so really we've got three challenges ourselves for the year. One is to develop a brand culture that goes across the whole business. One is to survive, because our industry has been very badly hit. And I know a lot of people would like to say that, but when you're reliant on people being able to travel to the UK, to South Africa, to Cyprus, to France, where they're in lockdown, it is starving your business of oxygen and revenue. So survival is the second, and the third one is seizing opportunities. So that's one part. But the other thing that really excites me is the work we're doing on the Kickstart program, which is a program for 16 to 24-year-olds streamed up by Rishi Sunak and the Department of Work and Pensions to avoid long-term unemployment for young people. And at the moment, we set ourselves a goal. We'd never really, although we've done lots of things to help people with how to do your CV, career focus, how to prepare for an interview. We've done that a lot with our students and with the work we've done with refugees and asylum seekers. We hadn't set out on a program like this with the government. And so we set ourselves a goal to have 100 people into work by the end of this year. And we are definitely on track for that. We've got around 65 roles accepted, going on for nearly 20 people now in work, which is a good start. We'd like more companies to come forward, because we know there's been a bit of a lag. Let's be honest, it's been a very challenging year already this year, but now a lot of sectors are coming back and they are looking to recruit, and so it's a great way to have someone fully funded by the government to give them work experience and also to help yourself as well. So yeah, getting more companies to come forward would be great, but with the real end goal is it's not so much about the companies, it's about the young people. And I've had some great chats and sessions and training sessions with the cohort we have at the moment, and they are just so motivated. People that left school with qualifications, some have got degrees, but all of them are united in they're very driven to have an experience and to get that kind of first foot on the ladder of their careers. So I really enjoy those sessions. So the more I can be let loose on them, the better.
If a business is listening to this in the UK and they're interested in the Kickstart scheme, how do they get in contact with you and make it happen and open the door for a young person to start a career?
Well, the easiest way would be to email us. kickstart@bayswater.ac is the email address. You could find me on LinkedIn, James Herbertson, or you could go to our website, bayswater.ac, and you'll find the information on there. Get in touch, and we're happy to help. We are a gateway, so we can help companies, and there's no cost to the company of doing so. But I must point out, you don't have to go via a gateway. If you want to do it yourself and you feel that that's easier, that is a route available to people. But we would, of course, love to help people, and we feel that we have an expertise in this area, and we can really deliver a great program so that when it gets the end of the 6 months, the Kickstarter has the best chance of getting a job at the end, which is the real purpose. So, yeah, if there are companies, we'd love to hear from you.
Brilliant. We'll put the links to this in the show notes. But if you're listening to this and you're a company in the UK that wants to invest in a young person, get in contact with James. You know, you're going to be in great hands there. You can hear his passion coming through the speakers. He's going to be able to help you and point you in the right direction. Him and his team at Bayswater to create a fantastic experience for a young person and you as an employer. James, are you ready for some quick fire questions?
Ooh. I'll give it my best shot.
Good on you.
Depends what you're going to ask me.
James, what's your favourite app or SaaS product that you use every day?
Very good question. Well, we've just come off the back of the Euros, so my favourite app of the last few weeks has been tuned completely in to BBC Sport. But of course, you wouldn't expect any different. Probably Agile is the site that I'm most going on at the moment as far as leads is concerned. Yeah. Sales leads.
What's Agile?
Agile is a CRM.
CRM, right, okay. So you use that for your sales leads, so people filling in forms and they go through to that. Right, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of it before, but we'll link to that. That's good for people. And what's your most recommended book, James?
Be More Pirate would be my book I've enjoyed most in the last couple of years. It's one of its sort of premises is all about don't seek permission, seek forgiveness. And so I think a little bit of your question you had before, it's like diving in and being an entrepreneur. You know, don't wait for someone's permission to do something, just do it.
And it's Be More Pirate.
Be More Pirate.
Be More Pirate. Right. My ears are
my lisp.
My ears are going bad there. Be More Pirate. That sounds fantastic. I thought that might be a children's book. Something that Noah might be reading.
No, well, it may well be. It has some pirate stories in there. It's brilliantly written, and it makes you have a new thought about what pirates and who they are and what they represent. But B, it's a very entrepreneurial spirit. It's not quite a self-help book. It's more of a kind of cultural way of life book, I'd say.
Sure. So James Herbertson, the social pirate. I've got your Halloween outfit sorted for you, James.
No comment.
James, what YouTube or podcasts do you love listening to?
I'll be honest, I don't listen to many podcasts, but I will be obviously after today. Obviously the Jodcast will be, right up there. But I do have a lady actually coming into the college today, Humara Hassan, who is a real inspiration for me. She used to work for American Express, and one day she decided she's going to turn down. She's been there for a couple of years working in the graduate scheme, and she didn't want to do that anymore. She wanted to have her own business, and so she became a YouTuber and developed her own business on social media. So I have to give a shout out to her, and she's literally arriving in about half an hour to the college. So I would be doing her an injustice if I wasn't going to mention her today.
Fantastic. Well, we'll link to Hamara, and maybe I can reach out and get her as a guest on the show. That might be
perfect. I'll suggest it later.
That's everything coming together there. Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. Who's an up-and-comer, James, in your industry? Someone that we should be keeping an eye on as a future James Herbertson, maybe?
I don't know about a future James Herbertson. I think that would be doing... well, I'd like to mention two, to be honest. I think I'd be doing it a disservice to say they're up-and-coming James Herbertson, because for me, I'm really in awe of them. So it would be two of the team here is Yelis Hussain, who is our Global Sales Director, and Jamie Tyler, who is our BizDev Director. And both of them have Bayswater DNA running through them. They totally understand the purpose of what we're trying to achieve here. But the lengths that they've gone to, and I'm sure lots of people have stories like this, but the lengths that they have gone to ensure the survival of our business in an extremely challenging time has been amazing. And they were already up-and-coming stars, I think, in their own right anyway, but just to work alongside people that are intelligent, thoughtful, compassionate, and go the extra mile just as a natural thing that they do is just really inspiring. So,
James,
my team.
fantastic.
Yes, Jamie.
James, you're such a good leader. Like, it's fantastic that you shine a light on the people that you work with. And I know you've spoken about Yellis and Jamie before in previous conversations, and fantastic stories there. And as you say, over the last 12, 18 months, you guys have been through it, and to hear that they've knuckled down and worked on what you're building there is fantastic. It really is. Thanks for sharing that, James. And what's the best way, if someone's listening to this and is thinking, wow, I might want to be a social entrepreneur or a social pirate, how's the best way for them to get in contact with you and maybe have a conversation with you, James?
I think probably reach out to me on LinkedIn is probably the easiest. So James Herbertson on LinkedIn, or send me an email, james@bayswater.ac.
Wonderful. And also bayswater.ac. For anybody that's listening to this that's thinking about any kind of courses, what courses do you deliver, James? So that if anyone is listening to this, they might want to jump on board.
Our course is very much aimed at Gen Z. So we have digital marketing courses, fashion courses, and English language courses. They're open for people from internationally to travel over to the UK. But we also offer French and Spanish classes for people based here in the UK. We run those in Liverpool and London and Cambridge, and coming soon to Harrogate as well. So really, they're great insights. If you've ever thought about learning a language and would like to slightly go outside your comfort zone, or you'd like to speak a little bit when you go abroad, when we're all allowed out again, they're just great, and make friends as well. So they're great courses. So
wonderful.
Check out the French and Spanish classes. Maybe
they could teach us what the French for entrepreneur is.
Indeed.
And if there's any businesses listening,
a nice reference to W then. That's good.
And if there's any businesses that are listening that want to take advantage of the Kickstart scheme, do get in contact with James at Bayswater and the team there to help create an opportunity for a young person coming through. Fantastic scheme there. There we have it. James Herbertson is the co-founder of Bayswater Education, a social enterprise in the international education sector. For every student that they teach, they fund the education of another student from a less privileged background on a one-to-one basis. James got his first customer by opening the door for his language travel agency, helping someone to speak English in the same way that he was learning Spanish. It's just solving a problem that an individual was facing. Really real simple, almost nuanced way of selling. James's passion obviously is just shining through there. His most used app is Agile, which he uses as a CRM for all the work that he does at Bayswater. His most recommended book is Be More Pirate. I insert pirate pun here, too many to mention. And he loves watching on YouTube Humara Hussein. Looking forward to checking out that YouTube channel, actually hearing how she's moved away from working at American Express to starting up a whole business working online. And we should be keeping an eye on Yellis Hussein and Jamie Tyler, the Global Sales Director and Business Development Director at Bayswater. What a leader James is, shining a light on these two guys that have been doing incredible things for Bayswater over the last 18 months or so. If you want to get in contact with James, head over to LinkedIn, type in James Herbertson, that's HERBERTSON. Find James's smiling face, send him an invite, say you heard about him on the JOD Pod. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to answer your questions. And if you want to find out everything that Bayswater does, head over to bayswater.ac, that's BAYSWATER.AC, and see what they might be able to offer you or someone who's in your family, someone young who might benefit from some of the programs that James offers at Bayswater. James, thanks for joining us today on the JOD Pod.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us today on the JOD Pod. If you enjoyed this interview with James and you want to hear more interviews with inspirational entrepreneurs, You need to play the YouTube game. You need to hit subscribe. You need to hit like and hit the bell so you get a notification every time we upload an interview. And just to help this video out a little bit more, let's ask James a question in the comments. He's an entrepreneur. He's a social entrepreneur. He helps people, learn new languages. I'm sure some people out there have got some questions for James. Ask them in the comments below, and I'll bully James to come back and answer every single one of them. I promise. Hopefully you've been inspired by James's story today, and maybe you got some ideas about how you might start your own social enterprise, how you might be able to give back and support those that are not as well off as yourselves. Go and build something, create something, and inspire the next generation. Thanks for joining us today on the JOD Pod. If you enjoyed this interview, why don't you check out some of these other interviews that we've done on the JOD Pod. More inspirational CEOs, coaches, entrepreneurs, founders, and authors. I'm sure there's something here that will inspire you to build something new.